According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the 5 hottest years on record all occurred in the last 5 years. So for me, I'm passionate about climate change because I don't want my son growing up in a world where he and his generation have to pay for the mistakes and the short-sightedness of our generation. Why you should care about climate change? Well, no one is immune from its effects, so that should be enough incentive. To preview, I'm going to discuss the causes, effects, and the predictions for the future if nothing is done about climate change. So to get an idea of what climate change is capable of, let's examine the effects that it's had on the Earth since the Industrial Revolution. According to the Climate Science Special Report funded by the US government, the average global temperature has risen by 1 degree Celsius since the Industrial Revolution. They say that this is the warmest period in human history that we're living in. The atmospheric CO2 levels are over 400 parts per million. Just for context, in 1870, that was 280 parts per million. It's the highest in 3 million years, they say. Global sea levels have risen 7 to 8 inches in the past 120 years. According to NASA, the oceans are 30% more acidic than they were since in 1900. Ice sheets and glaciers are continuing to melt at an ever-accelerating pace. Extreme weather like hurricanes are becoming more common and more intense. Arctic sea ice, so the sea ice in the Arctic region is projected to be completely gone by the 2050s. According to the World Meteorological Organization, the 20 warmest years on record all occurred in the last 22 years. So that's crazy. So why is this happening? Well, the causes, the Earth actually goes through natural cycles of glacial and interglacial periods. The last ice age ended about 12,000 years ago, which coincides with the start of human civilization. See, what happens is greenhouse gases, when they're released into the atmosphere, they trap heat. So greenhouse gases are like CO2, methane, CFCs. Well, the International Panel for Climate Change, they have concluded with 95% confidence that human activity, namely burning fossil fuels, is responsible for the accelerated pace of the warming of our Earth. It's actually warming 10 times faster than the natural average. They've also concluded that the USA and China are responsible for about 40% of all global CO2 emissions, with the US obviously being the leader in per capita emissions. So what does the future hold? Well, here's some predictions. In, I think it was 2015, the Paris Climate Agreement was signed. It was a convention, and it was signed by almost every country on Earth, and they agreed to hold the global temperatures to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial averages. Well, according to the IPCC, even 2 degrees Celsius of increased temperature is going to significantly disrupt our way of life and our economies and our quality of life. And they've actually concluded that we're on pace for 3 to 5 degrees increase by 2100. If that happens, they say the effects will be catastrophic. So the effects that we discussed before those are going to be the same effects. It's just going to be amplified that much more. So the sea levels Sea levels are projected to rise anywhere between 1 and 8 feet by 2100. This would render some cities, coastal cities, uninhabitable because they would be underwater for the most part of them. Um, Droughts, forest fires, extreme heat waves, all of these are going to be more common and more severe. And let me just say, this is all predicated on the fact that we don't change anything, that the pace of warming continues. Entire ecosystems will be wiped out or forced to move to different latitudes. For us in the southeast USA, extreme heat waves will disrupt our thriving agriculture industry, as well as our energy, health, and water sectors. So water and food shortages would not be uncommon. Our economic growth would stagnate and our quality of life would be drastically reduced. So the future of human flourishing on Earth, if these predictions have any merit, they seem very dire, to say the least. So to review, I've discussed climate change, its causes, effects, and potential future scenarios. In short, the effects of climate change they're currently being realized, and this is just the beginning if the rate of change continues the way it is. Thank you for listening.